Good evening, folks. Welcome back to another Monday night live stream. Hope everybody's well. Hope you all had a very nice weekend. Hope everyone's I'm assuming you all back to work now after the Christmas and New Year break, and kids are all back at school and all that kind of stuff. It's like Christmas never happened. So how's everybody doing? Who's hobbying tonight? Who's just kind of chilling with a cup of tea, cup of coffee, putting their feet up? Let me know what you're all up to, and I'll say hello to a few of you. We're having a look in the chat here and see who we've got. Lord Novus was in nice and early. Good evening, Lord Novus, if you're around. Lord Maiden as well. Nice to see you, buddy. Mark Wright, good evening to you. Greg Cherry, good evening to you as well, my friend. Dirksen as well, hello. Marcus, the Super Pumpkin Man, good evening to you as well. Ortega, hello in the rerun, fella. Blizzards, hello to you as well, mate, and all the other hooligans. We got Peter Kuman, good evening to you. Al Cluley, nice to see you in, mate. Christian Reeves, the legend, nice to see you in, sir. Ian is in as well, good evening to you. Andrew Fairbanks, he said bad loss last night, but happy your team is in the playoffs. It was a bad loss, mate. I must admit, I watched the game live. Thought we had it in the bag first half. Second half, we kind of threw it away. Rallied at the end, and I thought, just enough to make it, but wasn't to be. Didn't change too much, to be fair. Still in the playoffs, but could have been a better end of the season, I think. Major Tom, good evening to you, Ed. Hope you're well. Hello to Ian Webb as well. Good evening. Barry Kleiber, happy new year to you too, sir. Hope you're keeping well. Wayne Hayward, good evening. Good morning to VG as well. Hope you're doing well, fella. We've got, is it Lewis or Luis? Nice to see you in as well. Ian says, the good news is I didn't burn my fingers putting something onto this project. I'm assuming you're talking about the resin stuff, mate. Is that what you're doing? Where did that just jump off the screen there? Let me have to scroll back now. I just saw something about Hulk's crotch and I thought that wasn't on my screen the last time I looked. Jez Hunt, hello to you, mate. Phil Campbell, good evening. Glenn Griffin, good evening. He says, please give a shout out tonight to my wife. Good evening, Mrs. Griffin. I hope you're very well. RPD, good evening to you. McCoxie as well. Said he's just got his Kickstarter for Core Space Firstborn about an hour ago. That's my weekend sorted. Very nice, mate. It's nice to see those things arriving now. We've got Egon as well. Good evening to you. Rob Webb says he's a bit sad about Mantic cancelling The Walking Dead. We were just talking about that last week, mate. It is a bit of a shame, but I think, as I mentioned last week, it's been something out of their control, unfortunately. That Skybound Studios have just decided to not carry on the contract or not renew a contract. Chuck and Deb Taylor, good evening. Says still at work, 1 p.m. here. Good afternoon to you. Jason said he had to work the holidays, but I get my Christmas break this week. Oh, it's all right for something, mate. You get a nice break now. It's Blizz that's sanding Hulk's crotch. He said there was a gap and I had to use some plastic putty. There's easier ways to spend your life, mate, isn't there? James Arm, good afternoon to you as well, mate. How are you doing? Jess says he's currently chilling with a coffee and literally with my feet up, but just on a rolly break in terrain, Megan, really. Well, I've got my... I'm on a bit of a health kick now after the kind of the new year. I put on a lot of weight over the last few months of kind of good living, too much Guinness and too much fine food. So yes, I'm on a bit of a health kick at the minute. I've got my green tea here, just trying to go all zen and detox and cleanse my system and get all healthy again. Jason says Rams kind of fell apart there in the final. Do you know what, mate? They absolutely smashed the 49ers in the first half. It was chalk and cheese, the two halves of that game. Nigel Jones says you have to catch up on the replay. Good evening to you, mate. Wayne's got his cup at his hobby desk trying to get motivated to do more work on the Jeep kit. VG says the government shut dance floors for at least 3 weeks. Oh, don't even get me started on Omicron stuff, mate. Need some retail therapy, so I treated myself to everything on my Amazon wish list. That's good for you then, mate. Lots of games and hobby coming. Tasty Brain Drain, good evening to you. Jessica, he played the first game of the year on Saturday. Rangers have shadowed it with their misses. Loads of fun. What's up, Matthew Wilkinson? Got Nicholas Anderson as well. It's his evening gang. He's going to get some painting done. James says it's snowing, so he's happy. It's been a bit miserable here, mate. A bit cold and stuff and a bit grey, but it hasn't been snowing, thankfully. Jess says, sounds terrible, VJ. And Tizzy Brindrin says, don't remind me of that Rams game. Their loss knocked the Saints out. Yeah, it did, mate, unfortunately, yeah. I mean, there was a lot of movement around last night, wasn't it, with some kind of weird upsets, the Raiders game and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's a bit of a funny one. Eddie Horror as well, good evening to you. all the way from Louisiana. Chuck and Deb Taylor's doing the health kick too. She's down £11 since the first. I think I'm up £11. That's the problem I've got. James Hanna, good evening to you as well. Spiderlord said he found HeroQuest has a co-op app today, so that's just hit my wish list. But Marvel Zombies starts next week. We'll be talking about Marvel Zombies tonight. Marcus is boxing up his Christmas decorations, boxing them up. Mine's been gone since New Year's Eve. I think they were gone. Busey says, what's Omicron? Is it a new game? It's yeah, something like that, mate. And Jim says, yeah, an interesting NFL Sunday it was. Good evening, Yoakum, as well. So tonight, after last week's stream, I kind of was trying something a little bit different with kind of a bit of a topic, which is not like a kind of an all-night thing, maybe a sort of 15 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour type of topic thing, and then kind of a bit of a wrap-up of the news and things and stuff that we've got, kind of what's happening in the world of tabletop gaming. So we're going to try that again tonight. It seemed to kind of work well last time. I got a lot of good feedback about it. So yeah, we'll be cracking on with that tonight. So the topic tonight, the kind of the mini topic, and when it first kind of came to me that I wanted to talk about it, it was like, what keeps you spending in your hobby? It felt like a bit of a kind of like a, not a throwaway comment, because that's not kind of right, but it felt like just kind of an honest question, you know, like we all have more stuff than we need. Why do we keep spending? But the more I kind of did a bit of research, the more I kind of thought about it, it gets a bit deeper than that, to be fair. So it'll be interesting to have that conversation with you tonight, and we'll kind of chat about that. And then, yeah, I've got about, off the top of my head, probably about 3 or 4, maybe even 5 kind of bits of news stuff that's happening this week, or that has happened this last week in tabletop gaming. So we'll be chatting about that as well. Dave's Mini Menagerie, good evening to you. Said he's prepping for his first Malifaux tournament. Which faction are you taking me? That's always an interesting one. Kath Smith as well, good evening. Nice to see you as well, and the rest of the Smith crew. And Matty Lumley. Good evening to you in Omicron the board game. So we might as well, how are we doing for time? Looking all over for a clock now. We'll give it about another 5 minutes or so in case there's any stragglers kind of coming before we start chatting about the topic, because I always end up having to repeat myself. Dave said he's going, Bayou is the best. Says he's taking these Ophelia LaCroix. Very nice. VJ is asking, one of the games he's bought is Star Wars Outer Rim. Have heard lots of good things about it. Anyone else here got it? I've not got it, mate. It was something I looked at a while ago. Just didn't get it because I wasn't buying many board games at the time. But yeah, it did look interesting to me, and I have heard good things as well. VJ says he bought a bunch of Cthulhu-themed games as well. Rob Zunk, good evening to you, mate, or good afternoon to you. Nice to see you, mate. Egon says, in the case of Zombicide, it's just the weakness for everything with the zombies. I'll tell you kind of my thoughts about Marvel Zombies, or Marvel Zombicide, or whatever you want to call it, when we get to that bit tonight. But yeah, it's zombies is not. It's a topic that never really is far away from a new release, is it? Was it? I just reading something there. Yeah, Greg Cherry saying Outer Rim is great. I'm glad to hear that. You should be plenty pleased with your new games. But I guess so. A good place to start them before we start talking about the topic tonight then is to ask you that question. And so we're all kind of similar. We're all guilty of this kind of thing. You know, it doesn't matter whether you call it your pile of shame or your pile of potential, whatever you call it. We've all got way more stuff than we ever paint, than we ever play. Like we don't like go, I'm not using it, I'll sell it on kind of thing. Generally, you end up like what I'm looking at now. You end up with a big kind of pile of stuff that you've bought over the years. So what's your reason for keep buying more? Why do you feel the need to buy more? And I want you to kind of really kind of give it some serious thought as well. Don't just go, well, I've got money, so why not kind of thing, or don't just say, well, if I see something I like, I get it, I can afford it kind of thing. Why do we do it? Why do you do it specifically? And I want to just try to see some of those comments come through, so that when I kind of give you my thoughts, I can reflect back and kind of talk about what you think as well. People saying some nice stuff about Outer Rim there. Seems like it's goes down a treat. Mark's saying it's tradition to observe Christmas until the 6th of January. Christmas until the 6th of January. Christmas is over when it's over, mate. Don't worry about that. Never mind traditions. Eddie said his game group was a bit bored without a Rim. Interesting, mate. Dan Hughes, good evening to you, mate. Nice to see you in. Hope you're doing well, buddy. Dan raises a good point there, actually, and I've made some notes, obviously, like I always do. So I won't read out what folks have read just yet, but I will. In fact, if somebody can just type in @BlackJack Legacy into the chat, it'll just put a little mark in there, and then I can kind of come back and I know where we're up to. That'll be very, very kind. Thank you very much. But yeah, I think now's as good a time as any. We can kind of have a bit of a chat about it. So yeah, like I say, I thought about this originally of like why do we keep spending, be it board games, be it RPG stuff, be it miniatures games, be it just models if you're into painting. We've all got more than we need. We've all got a lifetime's worth, really. Generally, I mean, I'm sure there's always going to be kind of the exceptions. There's always kind of somebody who doesn't buy anything new until they've painted everything they've done, and there's always somebody that sells the old games that they don't use in order to fund and buy new things and all that kind of stuff. But generally, most of us kind of we buy a lot of new stuff in general, and it's not really anything to do with how much money you spend or how much money you've got to spend. Everybody's got a kind of a different idea of how much kind of disposable income they have when it comes to their hobby, and it doesn't matter whether you're kind of sort of having to save up for a few months to buy new stuff, or whether you've just got disposable income kind of coming out your ears, you've got a very well paid job, whatever. It doesn't really matter. We all seem to buy more than we need, really. And it's also got nothing to do with how many games you play. So it doesn't matter if you only ever play Warhammer 40k, you only ever play Kings of War, whatever it is, you only play a kind of you only play Dungeons and Dragons or some other RPG. We're all guilty of it, be it lots of multiple sets of dice or kind of more books or new miniatures to paint for our games and campaigns and things. So, obviously, one reason is, are we just deep down, are we just collectors? Do we just like to collect things? Because I consider that, is that one of the reasons why I do it? Because I don't do it very often. I spend less now than I used to. But I still kind of probably spend more than let's put it this way, I never need to buy anything new ever again, really. I've got plenty of stuff on the shelf, but of course I will. So is it about collecting? I've been kind of picking up all the Marvel Crisis Protocol minis. I'm really enjoying painting them. I'm really enjoying playing the game, and I'm actually kind of enjoying collecting them as well. So for me, there's an element of being a collector in there as well. So it's maybe one reason why we do it, but it can't be everyone's reason, and it can't be why we kind of continue to do it, if you like. The other side of it is, and the side when I kind of thought it gets a little bit deeper and stuff as well, is it just an addiction? Is it just that kind of that retail therapy thing where we feel the need to buy stuff for that kind of, I don't really want to say instant gratification, but that if somebody is a shopaholic, for example, it's not necessarily that they need anything. It's just they want the kind of the endorphin, the dopamine hit from the shopping experience. They want something new, and unfortunately, is that the reason that drives a lot of us? Is it the fact that actually it doesn't really matter what we're buying, that it's just the fact that we're buying something, and that in itself, I think, can be more prevalent than we probably give it sort of credit for. And actually, there's almost this kind of dark side to the tabletop industry, that maybe the whole industry is kind of funded by the fact that everybody is just buying for the sake of shopping. Because in reality, if it was just a case of you just wanted to buy kind of some miniatures to play a game, then we'd play with the stuff that we had. If it was just a case of buying miniatures because we enjoy painting, we wouldn't buy any more until we'd finished painting everything that we had. And then we'd potentially sell other stuff on as well. So then the second-hand market would probably be more sort of flooded with stuff, which would probably keep prices down. It starts to kind of unravel slightly, and this is not meant to be a negative topic or anything like that. I just think there's many facets to this kind of in the background, really. And it's almost this kind of, like I say, these kind of happy chemicals, these dopamine hits of just this kind of this need to buy something new. Is it a need to kind of feel part of a community? The last few years, we've not really got together too much as a community because we're always kind of, we've had lockdowns and all that kind of stuff. Is it the feeling of it, if I buy the latest thing, that keeps me relevant within the community, it keeps me up to speed with the community, I can talk about the new stuff because I've got it as well and everybody else is buying it and we all share that kind of common thread? Like, is it to do with that? Because we can't even blame like sort of competitive gaming and saying that you've got to get the latest stuff because otherwise like you fall behind and you won't be up to date with the game and all this kind of stuff, because the vast majority of us are not competitive gamers. The vast majority of us don't even play often enough to consider ourselves kind of like sort of tournament gamers. We might go to events, we might go to tournaments, but we're certainly not sort of playing enough to consider ourselves sort of tournament players. So it's almost like even like the chasing of the meta, if you like, is almost can't even be a real crutch. Because when it comes down to it, buying things that you never use. So if you've kind of bought miniatures that you've not even built, how many of you have got board games that you've never even kind of taken the cellophane off? How many of you got miniatures that you've maybe built and then just put back in the box and they've never saw the light of day again? Like, buying things to not do anything with them is literally just buying for the sake of buying. And that's the bit where it made me kind of just almost look upon this with a bit more of a kind of a serious slant and think, actually, what is the reason behind it? Like, I can look and see what my own reasons are, but what are the reasons that other people do it? And that's why I'm kind of asking you the question as well, because you can be part of a community without the need to spend on stuff. It's nice to get some new stuff. I'm not suggesting everybody just kind of stop spending. Everybody can do what they want. It's their own money. You spend it on whatever you want, and whatever makes you happy, as long as you're not hurting anybody else. Does it really matter? Like, you're not hurting your family by spending all of the mortgage and the food money on kind of miniatures, if you like. As long as that's not happening, does it really matter? I mean, it's not the end of the world, but it's just something to kind of take that little step back and think about, really. I mean, I guess what we could do is really we can kind of try and reduce temptations, getting caught in that hype train, kind of that kind of fear of missing out, all that kind of stuff. Kickstarter, we're about to talk about Kickstarter later on as well. That kind of Kickstarter hype all feeds into that kind of stuff. We can wait before we make purchases. We can choose to kind of like instead of like I must have it now, unless it's something that you think is going to sell out, which is another fear of missing out thing. But unless it's something else, is it a case of like, I've done it in the past. I've said, look, especially if I'm kind of, not necessarily with miniature stuff, but if I'm spending like a bigger sum of money on something, like if it's been like cameras for the channel or something like that, it's like, it's easy to get caught up in that, like, I get some nice new gear and everything will be brilliant and I'll get loads more subscribers from it. It never happens like that. So I've kind of done things where I've said, look, I'm going to wait 2 weeks, and if I still think I'm going to use it, if I still think I need it, I'll buy it in 2 weeks' time. And invariably, sometimes you kind of, like that buzz, if you like, disappears, and you're onto something else then, and it was the wrong thing to buy. It's not so bad when you're spending maybe like sort of like £2 or £3 here and there, or £5 or £10 on bits and pieces. But if you're sinking hundreds of pounds into games and new armies and things, it might be worth kind of just giving yourself a little bit of time. Another thing I've kind of thought about doing myself, and I've done this in the past, is when you're getting that urge to buy something new, to really truly understand, is it just the buzz of buying something new? Is that what's driving it? Is to actually just go to your pile of old stuff and pick up something that you've either not used in a long time, you've always meant to paint and you never got round to it. They build something else, play with something else, paint something else. Because at the end of the day, everything that you've bought that is sitting there gathering dust, doing nothing, was something at some point that you thought was a must buy, and you absolutely had to have it, and it was the latest thing, and you really wanted it, and yet it's sitting on that shelf not doing anything. So I think it's just one of those things, really, where I think it's something that we should all give some thought to. There's no reason to just kind of throw money, like sort of, I know the phrase of kind of throwing like bad money after good, if you like. There's no need to just keep throwing money at the hobby if we're not going to be doing anything with that stuff. So yeah, I just kind of, as I say, it didn't start off me thinking about it like that, but the more I kind of thought about it and researched it for tonight, that was kind of where it led me down that path. So I'm going to kind of dive in now and have a look at some of the comments that you've been talking about. And I can see here where folks were kind of tagging me, so I know where we had to get back to. And Ian started by saying, I just like models and games and I like to try things out. I also have ideas for models and painting, and sometimes it's the retail therapy and support. Yeah, and I do wonder how much of it is retail therapy and how much of that is masking other things and all that kind of stuff in all of us. Dan was saying he stopped spending, but it certainly makes me feel a part of the wider hobby. I think being interested in spending keeps you up to date. And that was kind of one of the things. I do feel that people, me included, and I've done it in the past, I do it less now, but I have done it in the past, you buy the latest thing that everybody's talking about, you get caught up in the hype because you feel that you want to be part of it. Like a lot of the reasons I got into the whole YouTube stuff and got into this was to be part of a wider community, people that I don't have access to kind of locally, or I didn't back then. And I think we sometimes feel that we connect with them by us kind of, if we've all separately purchased the same thing and we're all sitting painting it and we're all sitting talking about it, you feel part of that wider community. Unfortunately, what tends to happen is a lot of that stuff never ever sees the light of day. It never gets to the table, it never gets painted, it never gets completed, certainly. And then that's the point where I'm kind of going about almost refer back to what I said before about, so why are we buying it? Son, it's like, hello mate, nice to see you. Vijay saying to fill the hole inside. Do you know what is? There's many a truth in that, I think. Nostock, good evening to you. Sunderland, good evening to you as well. Matthew Wilkinson says, I have serious hobby butterfly syndrome, plus I'm a bit of a completionist when it comes to mini games. I think a lot of people are completionists, and I think it definitely drives people to do it. But thinking about it, I've kind of looked at stuff in the past and I've thought, why do I feel the need to have the kind of, why do I need to complete it? I don't play the game now. Like, just because there's a new expansion come out or there's a new warband or whatever the case may be, just because something's new's come out, why do I feel the need to buy it when I'm not using what I already have? I've kind of, one of the things when I first decided I was going to do this YouTube full time was I didn't spend anything for 6 months, and it really got me to kind of reassess my spending. It got me to reassess like the hobby in general. What was I enjoying? What was I not enjoying? What did I think I enjoyed but actually never did, like never spent any time doing it? Was it like it was almost just kind of, I thought it was part of my hobby but it wasn't really, and actually having a little bit of restraint and pulling away from it for a bit in order to save some money, basically to kind of to save up to take a huge pay cut to come and do this. It was interesting to see just how much I spent initially by not spending it anymore, and then understanding what are the things actually that I would have spent money on now but I'm purposefully not, and that was quite an eye-opening thing. Marco, good evening mate, how are you doing? He said, forgot to mention I like this new format. Thank you very much, mate. He says, in Italy it goes until the 6th of January when we have that Befana, who takes all the celebrations away and leaves sweets behind. I'm sure there's traditions and all that kind of stuff and everything else. For me, mate, I'm not a religious person. I don't kind of celebrate Christmas for the religious festival, if you like. And I want all the mess tidied away, mate. That's pretty much what it is for me. Spiderlord says the chinchillas ate my Firefly box. That's where all the marks come in. Thank you very much. Busey, good evening, mate. He says, you get that adrenaline rush when you buy stuff. And Wargamer Ape is saying they're a bit of escape. I think that's half the problem, but that surely that is a bad sign of things, isn't it? If we are all just in this for the adrenaline rush of buying something new, the whole hobby industry is propped up on the fact that people just spend money for the sake of it and nobody's really buying it because it's ever going to get used. I would hate to think I was ploughing my time into kind of designing things and making things and tweaking games and trying to make them better just because I mean, maybe that's the case. Maybe some companies, I won't mention any names, don't kind of worry too much about balance and all that kind of stuff, because they've made an industry out of making changes to sell more things, and you never really need to get it right anyway, because basically people just like buying new stuff. Yeah, Andrew Fairbanks saying, gotta catch them all. Christian says, I like to have options for different gameplay styles of things, like Walking Dead, Drowned Earth, or Marvel for STLs. I like the option for D&D characters. I get that, mate. But do you find that you buy stuff to never, ever use, though? Or do you feel that your spending is quite on a very specific kind of subset of things, and you get use out of everything? Because these days, for me, I think I get use out of everything I spend. I don't spend nearly as much. One, I don't have the spare money to spend what I used to spend. And two, I'm fortunate that things get sent to me that I can look at and review, and maybe they scratch that itch, that kind of sort of that impulse of buying something new does. But I can tell you now, there's a lot of stuff I get sent where basically it's kind of, I review it and I play for a bit and I enjoy it, but unfortunately I just don't have the time to go back to it. And if I'd spent money on that, that's money that's been sunk. Barry says the 6th of January is the celebration of the Three Kings visiting baby Jesus in Bethlehem, if you're into that sort of thing. Yeah. Jez says, I don't generally have much cash, so I don't generally buy much, but when I get a chunk of cash after a good sized job, I tend to stock up for between cash periods. I can get that, mate. I think it's nice to have like a bit of retail therapy. It's nice to reward yourself after you've kind of, like you see, you've done a big job, you've kind of been working really hard. It's nice to kind of treat yourself on things. But yeah, I don't do it on anything else. Like I like whiskey, but I don't buy myself 20 bottles of whiskey. I don't see a new whiskey come out and buy it and then never drink it, or have one drink out of it and then just put it down and never drink it again. Like I don't do it with clothes. I don't go shopping for clothes and buy loads of clothes that I'll never wear. I don't think I do it in anything else, like in my life, except with hobby stuff. So why is it? I think there's some self-reflection I need to look at there, but I wonder what it is. Peter says, why do people buy more than one car when you can only drive one at a time? Because they want it. I think that's a bit different, mate. Most people don't have more than one car. Sort of like your average kind of sort of anywhere from kind of low to middle earning people don't have more than one car per person, if you like. I think when people are starting to get into kind of having more than one car, I think that is certainly either maybe one is kind of like the hobby where they're working on it and they're trying to kind of like renovate a car or something like that, or they have bags and bags of money where money ceases to become an issue really, and then it just becomes a status thing. But yeah, I don't think I could really compare that kind of thing. Ed saying, for him it depends on the game. For X-Wing and Kill Team, it's a mixture of keeping up with the meta and counter meta. For Marvel, Legion and Martyr, it's cool stuff. It's interesting to play. I think you're definitely somebody that seems to play a lot more games, Ed, and I think you tend to play, if not tournament play, you play kind of competitively with your friends, if you like, and I can see why you certainly want to chase it. But I think the fact is that you're chasing it because everybody's chasing it, so we're all in that circle in that instance. Wargame Aim says, sorry, it's a bit of an escape and feeling fulfilled when painting and reading lore. I get that. There's nothing wrong with kind of that escapism. I'm not knocking the hobby. I'm not talking about us spending money on the hobby. I'm talking about us buying things and then never doing anything with them. So why do we keep spending? Why do we keep buying more if the stuff that's sitting on the shelf is basically gathering dust? There's nothing wrong with buying something to do something with it. If you've bought 2,000 miniatures in the last year, but you've painted 2,000 miniatures and you kind of play regularly and you use these games this week and those games next week, I can see you're just spending money on the things that you're doing. But if you're spending money on things that never get used, or get used once and never get used again, or get built and never get painted, or you're buying books that never get read, why do we do that? Because like I say, I don't do it in any other kind of aspect of my life. I don't kind of, let's think, I don't buy a season ticket for a football match and then never go to the game. I like, for example, we've been talking about NFL earlier on. I subscribe to the NFL Game Pass. I pay for a full year of access to that, but I watch the games every week. I watch the highlights during the week. I don't subscribe to that and then never use it. I don't do it with any other kind of aspect other than hobby. Greg says, I'm very diligent about getting things new to the table within a week of arriving. Save money on $14 cocktails for drinks and games at home. I think there's an element of if you're like I say, if you're buying it and you're getting it to the table, you're doing something with it. Even if it's only once, at least you're doing something with it. Like if you're a painter and you're buying STLs, like they're going out of fashion to print things off, for example, but you never ever print them. Or you're a painter who's buying miniatures to paint, but then never ever build them or never do anything more than prime them and put them on a shelf kind of thing. That's the kind of stuff I'm kind of getting at. Ed saying, to be honest, with X-Wing and Kill Team, there's an amount of damn that's cool too. Yeah, I get that, mate, as well. And I think there is an element of that, but again, I kind of keep going back to this. Yeah, I'm kind of starting to sound like a broken record. It's like, damn, that's cool, but it's cool while I'm looking at it. Is it still really cool when you bring it home and you put the box on your shelf and you never do anything with it, or you basically build it up and it goes in a cupboard or it goes in a drawer or something like that? That's the point. I think it's that trigger of, do you do anything with the things that you buy? Because I know every single one of you will have bought stuff that you thought was cool, but then never kind of got further than half building it or trying to play the game once and never played it again kind of thing. RPD says, I haven't done anything hobby-wise lately. Sometimes it's nice to have a break, mate. Busey saying, why do you buy 2 packets of bacon when you're only going to use one? You'll never only ever use 1 packet of bacon, mate. That's sacrilege. Wayne Hewitt says, retail therapy is a thing. I see it as collecting, but also something that gives me things to do. Yeah, I don't disagree, but I think even retail therapy can be a dangerous, slippery slope. If you're only getting the enjoyment from the purchasing rather than the actual thing that you're buying, then that can be a slippery slope. Eddie says, I'm always looking for games with cool minis I want to paint and games I can play with the game group and kids. I'm mostly a collector hoarder. Hoarder, I think, is sometimes near the point, mate, with a lot of us. James says, apart from the fact that buying games helps me develop my painting skills, I see my games as an investment for the future, for family to enjoy, or at least to pay for funeral expenses. You'll never get back what you invested in, mate. You'd be far better off putting that money in a jar if that was the case. Greg Webster, I think, is kind of summing it up here. Consumerism is a hell of a drug. I think you are very, very much bang on the money with that one, mate. I think we're all kind of in that kind of consumerism type thing. Like, obviously, like, I do this for a living. I'm not trying to sell you any games, but I am always looking for new things to talk about. And that doesn't help kind of break the cycle, does it? But there again, if I never talked about anything new, why would you ever watch kind of thing? So there is that kind of, it's almost that ironic kind of thing in the background there. Dennis, he says, in terms of Zombicide, fear of missing out. If you don't kickstart, then you lose so much content it hurts not to buy new Zombicide. But if you don't play the game, you're not losing any content. That's kind of the point I'm making, really. It's all right saying I'm going to kickstart and I'm going to go all in because I want everything, because I know I'll play it all. But then if you don't play it all, that's when it was kind of a fallacy, really. That's kind of what I'm getting at. Kath says, I love opening a big fresh box of game and goodies, new sprues, unpopped sheets of tokens. Yeah, I do as well. I must admit, I do. I get that. Andrew says, serious answer, I like the big army games and I usually like everything for the games I play, and I like a good sizable army with options for each of them. Yeah, okay. I kind of have to kind of phrase my reply. I get what you're saying, but I go back to my original point. Unless you're using everything, why do you keep buying things you don't use? I think is maybe a more on point question. RPD saying, yeah, I enjoy buying hobby stuff. Yeah, VG says the splurge was the first time I've spent a chunk of change on games hobby for a while, as I've been so flat out with work. Yeah, I get that, mate. And like I said before, I think sometimes if you've been working hard, you've had a bit of a kind of, you've not had an opportunity to kind of to do your hobby. I think we all kind of like to kind of do something similar to that. Eddie says, 100% I think it's an addiction. I order a game, get super excited when it comes in, excited to open it up and look it over, and then it sits on a shelf and I order the next. I need help. I think that's a case with a lot of people, and I think it is. Kickstarter is one of those things. How many people get hyped for Kickstarter? They go all in really heavy. They're all excited about it. And then that moment's gone, kind of thing. You have to wait that 18 months, 2 years for the game to arrive. And in the meantime, those folks are getting hyped on the next Kickstarter and hyped on the next Kickstarter and back on the next one and back on this one and getting excited about another one. And by the time the one arrives that you paid for 2 years ago, the kind of almost the novelty's worn off a little bit. It's great when it comes and you open it up and there's boxes and boxes of stuff and you go, right, I'll get to that. But in the meantime, the next month another Kickstarter arrives, and the next month another Kickstarter arrives. There are people that are just sort of hooked on that excitement of kind of that Kickstarter train. Ed saying, I do have a rule that I don't buy anything that won't hit the tabletop though. Hence no ETA 2s. I don't know what ETA is, mate. But yeah, I think everybody has that rule initially. I think everybody thinks they're going to hit the table with it. I think everybody thinks they're going to get it. They're going to get to play it. James said, I'm a collector too, I guess, with nearly 200 games in a rough count. There's loads of people collect board games, mate. Like, have massive board game libraries. I think sometimes people just like to surround themselves with nice things, whether they're going to play them or not. But we put a lot of thought into what we will buy and what we won't buy for folks that then never use the bits, as it was. Spylord says, I'm a sucker for cool stuff. Simple as that. Sexy minis and fun games. I'm just going to repeat myself again, basically. Like, they're only sexy and cool minis if you then actually build them and paint them and do something with them. I mean, if you're not into painting and you're quite happy to not have painted minis, fair enough, I get it. But like, they look sexy in the pictures online. Are they just as sexy when they're in a bag, like in a box on a shelf that you never use? Sunday's like saying, probably a small part of FOMO and sometimes retail therapy, and then sometimes it looks fun to paint, and then occasionally it's something I legitimately want. Yeah. Christian sharing the link there for Patreon. Thank you very much, mate. If anybody would like to support the channel, you can do so on Patreon from $2 a month. Less than the price of a cup of coffee to help me keep being able to do this full time and pay the bills, all that kind of stuff. So thank you. Spylord says, I think Kickstarter is a problem sometimes though. So much FOMO and you never get all that content. Yeah, and companies know this as well. They know they can hype that up. They know that they can get people to buy more stuff than they'll ever use. And everybody justifies it by saying, oh well, I'll be able to sell it for more because nobody else will be, like, it won't be available and all that kind of stuff. We all tell ourselves all these things that we want to hear, but yeah, it's FOMO 90% of the time, I think. Sunday Sykes says, in short, I spend money to feel joy because I can't drink alcohol. I don't think alcohol brings joy, mate. I mean, I know you're kind of like laughing about that. It's not the alcohol that brings the joy. It's the fact that you are going out and socialising with other people. Like, sitting drinking on your own is not fun. Like, in general, it's nice. Like, it's nice to have a drink. It's nice that you like the taste of it and you like the flavour of it and stuff, and it can be relaxing. But the fun comes with the social side of things when it comes to alcohol for me. So yeah, you don't need alcohol to have fun, mate. You just need other people to have fun with. Andrew saying, all that said, I usually only buy those 2 games. When I get into a new one, it's usually collect all of it and then I sit there happy and complete. See, I don't get that. I'm not really a completionist. I never really have been. I personally don't see the enjoyment in just having everything for something I'll never use. But each to their own. Spylord says, GW in particular based their entire sales model on always getting people to buy the latest thing. Absolutely, mate, yeah. Everyone's saying, yeah, FOMO's a big factor. Camo, nice to see you in, buddy. James says, I find that people with large collections of particularly board games are more selective in what they buy for their collection. I think they have to be once they get to a certain size, mate, because they physically run out of space for it. But I would suggest that people with really small collections are more selective because they didn't get to like 200 games, for example. Eddie says, I've got hordes of minis I've never built, that collect dust, and 10 more board games I've never played. Eddie and I have a problem. I don't think you're alone, mate. One, you're in the right place. Welcome, right? Because I think you're certainly not alone in this. And I think, to be honest, I think you're probably kind of being a bit more honest about it than maybe some others are. I think I certainly have stuff that, like, I have every intention of kind of building and painting and playing on regularly and all that kind of stuff, and then something else comes along and takes my eye, and that stuff gets relegated to the shelf. Andrew says, the real reason I have some games still in cellophane is because I have no friends. I meant to say no friends that are also interested in those games. And then I guess that takes me back to the point of, we all had when we bought those things, we all assumed, oh yeah, I'll definitely be able to play that. Spylos, I feel like in this hobby some of it can be seen as an investment. There is no investment in this hobby, mate. There's no investment. Quite often you can make most of your money back when you move it on, unlike something like video games. I kind of disagree, mate. It's very rare you can make your money back when it comes to miniature stuff. You can sometimes get back kind of a decent chunk of it. I think Kickstarters are sometimes the exception. Sometimes people do pay over the odds for Kickstarters because they missed out. But generally with miniature stuff, I don't really see anybody kind of... Like, painted stuff generally is worth less than unpainted stuff. Second-hand stuff is certainly not worth as much as new stuff. I wouldn't say you're kind of making your money back. I don't think there's any long-term investment in miniature stuff. Spylo said, I got no games in cellophane. The first thing I do is punch all the tokens. Yeah, I agree, mate. Me as well. Peter says, I always make an army list before I buy, but tend to add more models later. I get that, mate, but I think it depends on the games you play. But a lot of games you can write an army list, and by the time you buy all of that stuff and build it all and start painting it to get it to the table, there's a new book come out, the meta's changed. And that's why I always find that kind of buying an army in entirety before I do anything with it is kind of false economy for me. I'm far better off just buying. When it comes to kind of bigger army stuff, I've always kind of had the feeling that I might buy like a starter set or something like that. But until I've built and painted all of that stuff, I'm not buying anymore. Because if I instead of spending £60 on a starter set, I'd spend £300 on a full army, for example. Then I've basically wasted 240 quid, because if I can't get that £60 worth built and painted, there's no chance I'm going to get the other £240 worth done. VG says, I buy games I like the look of and prefer to buy games that can be played solo. Yeah, that's fine, mate, yeah. But then I struggle to find the time and motivation to actually get stuff to the table. I think that's the thing. I mean, there's lots and lots of stuff that we buy under that impression. I bought Marvel Champions, the card game, for example, over Christmas because it was in the sale. I've punched all the tokens out. I've done nothing with it. I've not even had a try of it yet. That's a prime example of I'm not infallible. I do the same thing everybody else does. I think it's a prime example of stuff where I had every intention of playing it and I've done nothing with it. Let me scroll back here because I just saw something somebody saying. There's quite a lot of chat here tonight, so I'm trying to catch up here. Andrew saying, yeah, GW stuff doesn't really lose money sitting on the shelf. It loses money the second you buy it. The difference is, from that point on, it doesn't lose any more, I would suggest. Christian says, like most people in the hobby, I have a collector's mentality. The need to have one of everything as a collection is real. I'm going to miss out on a lot of Walking Dead stuff, is upsetting. Yeah, maybe it's just me. I don't really have that kind of collector mentality. I like to have nice things. I don't feel the need to have kind of like a full collection of stuff, really. Andrew says, I don't get around to things because I have too many things to do. I think that there's a little irony in there somewhere. RPD says, I got a ton of models I've bought and never built and painted. I enjoy buying models of games and taking a look at the kit. It's definitely for the buzz. I think it's for the buzz, mate, as well. And Rocky Mountain saying, he's been building a library of STL files for D&D. It enables my players to enjoy a sandbox game without being limited by minis. See, for me, I personally feel in that respect, the library is online. You don't need to buy them all. The library is online for people to kind of to look at and then buy the ones that you want. it's not like, for example, it's not like if you don't buy it now, you'll never be able to buy that STL again kind of thing. There's STLs everywhere. So the library is free to browse, for example, and you only need to pay for them when you want them. That's how I would see it personally. But then I'm not massively into printing kind of miniatures and stuff like that, really. I enjoy using my printers, but I'm not really into printing the miniatures that much. I'll scroll down a little bit because I'm going to be here all night and I'll be able to catch up. I think I'm already about 20 minutes behind. Tony Booth Lydens, he started out wanting everything and then I got everything, and after a while I realised I don't have the time or space. Good evening, by the way, mate. I think there's an element that I've been there as well, where I used to have more money, and the cost side of it wasn't a reason to not buy something, for example. And I think I got to a point where I had more than I needed, and I realised it wasn't really making me any happier. It wasn't really kind of doing anything for me. My hobby wasn't any richer for it. All that was happening was I was filling up cupboards and shelves and boxes and stuff. So I think I've learned to wind it back myself. I still spend money that I probably shouldn't really spend, but generally I think I've kind of wound it back a little bit, really. Peter says, something to consider sometimes is what we want to get done doesn't equal what we manage to get done. Life has a way of scrapping your project. Yeah, I get that, mate, but then I think by the same stretch, we also need to look at past projects that we never got time to do, and before we then spend money on the next project, think, well, what's going to change with the new one? Like if I've bought this project to do, I bought this army to build and play, and I never had any time to do it. Why do I think it's going to be anything different with this new £300 army that I'm going to spend? Where's all this time coming from? Because if I've suddenly changed my job, or I've changed my hours, or something's happened that's given me more free time, why is that project not getting done now? Why am I just ignoring that now and moving on to something else? That's kind of my point, really. Chuck and Deb Taylor, I got several board games from Kickstarter I've never played because they're locked up in shipping crates on a maroon ship and container ship in California. I think you're not alone in that one as well. Rob Brown, good evening to you, mate. Hello, David Warren as well. Since when I first got into Legion, I bought up all the stuff in a local sale for cheap. Then looking at a pile of plastic, I stopped and refocused. Now I stick to my faction only and get models to paint and play. Yeah, and to be honest, I kind of... I've done that generally, like for a while. I did it with my Marvel stuff when I first started. It got to Christmas, people were wanting to buy me gifts and stuff, so I ended up getting to a point where I bought stuff that I didn't necessarily need yet, but would have bought in the future, if you like. So because it was Christmas and people were wanting to buy gifts, that was a slightly different situation. But generally, I've tried to limit myself with stuff. Yeah, and David's saying there, getting into new games, I start small to see if I want to keep going with it, and if I do, I build slowly. I think we're kind of on a similar page there, mate, I think. Yoakum saying, spent money on things I wanted to paint at first, and lots of paints, of course, because I enjoyed painting, and I realised I enjoyed playing games too, so now spent money on 2-player starter sets to play. Yeah, I do like a 2-player starter set, mate. John Estel, good evening to you, mate. Said, just gone from a meeting, we've reached a decision. Andy is our major source of temptation. I would suggest I'm not alone in that, but I think, yeah, there is an element of sort of YouTube, and people are... I don't consider myself... Or do I consider myself? Probably thinking about it. I don't like the term influencer, but yeah, if anybody is influenced by what I say or what I do, then I suppose by definition I have to be, don't I? Yoakum saying, yeah, look, you can split the cost with his brother as well. That's not too bad, mate. Hello, John Ashley Smith. How are you doing? Glenn says there's a mentality that if you don't buy something while you can, you might want it further down the line. You might not be able to get it. But I don't think that ever really happens, mate. I think very, very rarely is that the case. I think that's something we tell ourselves to justify buying it now. I can't think of anything that I've thought, if I don't buy it now, I won't be able to get it later, and it's actually been the case. Maybe a Kickstarter, but then I think about some of the Kickstarters that I've backed, things like the Gotham City Chronicles game, the Batman game, that because it was going to Kickstarter, it was never going to go to retail. It's had 2 more Kickstarters since then, and the rules are still not right. It's still pretty much unplayable. Like that's the kind of thing I think where I've bought stuff because I thought I wouldn't be able to pick it up, and I've had like 2 more opportunities to pick it up since then. Kat says, we've been learning to play our horde of games. Just Descent and Marvel to have a go at now. Very nice. Miniature Adventures, good evening. She's looking good as always. You need to get your eyes checked. She's always make myself buy something I like the look of to paint something and I'll use in a game. And Andrew says, I don't actually use much of my things, but it's about having it for when I want to use it. That just baffles me, that, mate. That's like saying I'm going to go out and I'm going to buy loads of different clothes because at some point I might want to go surfing, so I'm going to get myself a wetsuit and I'm going to put it in the wardrobe and I'm going to hang it up because at some point I might want to go surfing. I once saw a surfing video; it looked pretty cool. Like like if you take that kind of mentality and transpose it to something else, it sounds stupid like that. Christian saying, I absolutely do not use everything I own, but if I get to play, the options will be there for me to introduce others. James is saying, my hat collection is way worse than anything hobby-wise, way more than I could ever wear, but I like the collecting aspect. I think the difference is when you talk about hats, you don't have to build, you don't have to paint them, you don't need anybody else to use them, and I can understand that there is an aesthetic to collecting something to put on display and just we're humans, we like art, we like to be kind of like creative things around us, and I can get like things like hat collections and stuff, but if you bought loads of hats but you had to build them before you could wear them and you never ever built them, that might be a bit nearer one. Carrie, good evening to you, saying I find jumping into market and hype and end up buying the latest release with the intent to play but never do. Yep, you and most other folks, I would imagine. Andrew's saying to answer why I have more than one car, the wife doesn't have a credit score at one of the three, so I had to sign up for a car. That's a very niche, specific situation. You don't necessarily have two cars then. You've just signed for a car for your wife, basically. Let me scroll down here and catch up a little bit. Ed saying, cars might be a bad example, but I know people have spent ludicrous money on football shirts. Yeah, I'm sure some people do, mate, yeah, but it's... Again, I think I go back to like the caps and all that kind of stuff, really. Like, people spend ludicrous amounts of money on watch collections and things like that and all sorts of things. I'm not suggesting that there's anything wrong with it. Like, I keep coming back to the same thing because I feel like I'm going over old ground a little bit here. But if you bought, let's use watches as an example. You can get some very, very expensive watches, and people collect watches. They like to have a watch collection. One thing I'll say is watches can generally appreciate in value, so there's something else to that. But if you bought them and then basically like locked them up, if they were devaluing, let's just say, and you locked them away and you never ever used them, you never wore them, you didn't do anything with them, why what's the point, kind of thing. So it's kind of hard to compare stuff, and this is what I mean. There's only my hobby that I do this in, at the risk of kind of just repeating it that bit there. Singbo, hello. Saying mountain biking is his other hobby. Stuff for it is expensive. Impulse purchases are rare because of that. Individual hobby purchases can be much cheaper, so the impulse purchase temptation is higher. I think that you're right about impulse purchase. I think the like that feeling of just retail therapy, the dopamine hit from buying something new. I think when something is within your kind of your budget and stuff like that, I think people think less of it, really. They don't give it the consideration. In scale modelling, there's a term, sable stash acquired beyond life expectancy. Stash acquired beyond life expectancy. I hit sable some time ago, and I'm really trying to limit what I buy. I'm at the stage, mate, where I really need to get my stuff together and really start selling some stuff, because I know there's plenty of stuff on them shelves there that I'll never ever use. Like, realistically, somebody else might as well get the enjoyment from it. Kath says, it's like buying a box of stored fun. It's there for you when you want it. But how many boxes of stored fun do you need? That's my point. I get it with maybe one or two, but why have lots of it and then keep buying more on top? It's in there, you're right. As a TO, as well as a player, I play most entirely competitive style games when I'm not playing an actual tournament. Yeah. The Mad Moderator, good evening. Said he had a massive clear out when it's come to 4 years since we moved to Switzerland. Anything had been in a box in a nuclear shelter for 4 years got sold. Yeah. We moved house, mate, and I moved stuff from from a storage cupboard to the loft in this house, basically. And then I moved it to the garage, and then when I converted the garage to the studio, it all went into the loft. I've got so much stuff, like not even the stuff that's on the shelves here. I've got stuff in the loft upstairs in the house that it will never get touched because I don't even get access to it on a regular basis. David says, I did what you're talking about with board games. Buy the hotness, play them once, they're sat on the shelves. Now I've sold most of my collection and using the money for miniatures and paint. Rob says, the hobby sits in the affordable impulse purchase range as well. 30 to 50 quid for a box of models isn't going to stop the bills being paid. Not for you, mate, maybe, but it's not the case for everybody. And I think you may, if you sort of spend £30 to £50 a month or whatever it is, it might, you might not miss that. But I think there are some people who essentially are almost spending every kind of penny of their last, of their free money, really. And I think it's not a healthy thing. It's like, let's be honest, it's not healthy for anyone. It doesn't matter how much money you've got, just buying for the sake of buying. However, to some people, they'll never ever miss that money, and it's irrelevant really in terms of kind of their impact. But I just don't think it's a healthy thing to just accept, really. I think it's I'm not suggesting anybody changes their ways, but I would kind of urge everybody to kind of at least look at that, if you like. Mark was saying he's guilty of overbuying. Yeah, absolutely, mate. Peter says you always get back what you invested. At least what you told your wife you invested. Yeah, that's a very different one, mate. Tavinda, good evening. Says, I really slowly started to realise this and been able to restrain the FOMO. What helped was looking away from GW. Yeah, I tell you what, mate, I've noticed that once you stop focusing on GW so much, the FOMO disappears. Limiting myself to one box per month, if that. I like the idea of it, but once I have it at home, it just sits there. I think so many people are exactly the same. A person says, hello, I recently got a 3D printer. I've been snagging dying to defunct game books and print substitution models to play with friends. Cool, mate. Some nice choices there as well. Bobby Clark, good evening to you, mate. He says, I said hobby goals, only buying hobby stuff to achieve them. I have no pile of shame. I'm immune to FOMO and trends. I think with yourself, mate, obviously, especially being a commission painter, you get to paint some interesting stuff, or some not so interesting stuff at times as well. So it's nice to kind of have that mix of things up. So I guess your hobby pile is intentionally relatively small because, well, one, because you're in control of it, but two, because I guess you also don't want to burn out as well. Let me just scroll ahead here a little bit. Machine Gun Devil Dog says, I buy my Kickstarter games mostly for the IP. Okay, but then you just want to kind of just pop it on the shelf, or do you play them? Or I'm just going to say hello to a few folks here because I'm well behind on the chat here. Hello to Lamota Games. We've got Stephen Lyon. Nice to see you. Alcohol is an escape from reality. His life is hard. Alcohol is not an escape from reality. It's a substitute from reality. That's what it is. Mark's Dice Tales, good evening. Mark says, what's them rich people meeting thing that was last year? People will own nothing and be happy. Do you know what? There's an element of truth to that. Whilst coming from rich people who will own all of the stuff, that's a very insidious kind of like a phrase. But generally, happiness does not come from owning things. Absolutely. Ian H, good evening to you. Says, want FOMO, start collecting 3D printable files. I completely disagree. I've bought files, but I've always printed everything I've bought. I've never found the urge to buy files I'll never use. Solo Board Gaming Night, good evening. Says, moderation is a good thing to have with all things when it comes to board games. I have a strong urge to experience as much as I can. Thankfully, I play everything I own multiple times, and I think that's fine as well. Lord Maiden says, well, maybe I don't want to live in this reality. When alcohol is definitely not the way to kind of change it, buddy. Just change your reality. Do something else. Right. We're coming at 10 o'clock now. That went on a bit longer than I thought it would, to be fair. But I'll tell you what I'm going to do now. We're going to talk about the news now. I'm going to talk about some let me get ready with my news topics. So, of course, the first one I want to talk about Talk about FOMO and missing out and getting caught up in the hype and everything else. Simon and Spin Masters, obviously a little while ago, they announced Marvel Zombies, which is essentially a Marvel licensed Zombicide game. For those that don't know, Marvel Zombies is it's part of the comic books. It's not just kind of something that they've created for this game. There's a whole kind of comic book line based around this, and essentially there's an infection which kind of takes over the world generally. It makes them kind of like flesh-eating zombies, but they do retain their superpowers. They do retain their kind of intellect and things, so they're not like mindless kind of walkers shambling about. They still have their superpowers. They can still fly. They can still do magic, that kind of stuff. So that's the kind of the background anyway. So this is the kind of this is the cover for the core box, Marvel Zombies there, and in this kind of original core box, if you like, you essentially fight as these zombie heroes. So you take the part of the zombified superheroes, and you're trying to basically munch your way through New York City, fighting against SHIELD agents and also kind of other superheroes who haven't yet been infected. Now, inside this core box, what you will get is there's 6 zombie heroes. There is Deadpool, Captain Marvel, Wasp, Iron Man, Hulk, and Captain America, and then the AI superheroes, which will come as kind of as miniatures. These are the uninfected heroes, are Doctor Strange, Thor, Scarlet Witch, Black Panther, Spider-Man, and Miss Marvel. Now, we already knew all that kind of stuff, but the new news is we now have a launch date for this. It is coming to Kickstarter on Tuesday, the 18th of January, which is 3 p.m. Eastern Time, or is about 8 p.m. in the UK. So that is like a week tomorrow. Now, what we didn't know was we found out recently that also as part of the Kickstarter will be this, which is Marvel Zombies X-Men Resistance. And this is basically like a hero mode for the game. And this allows you to play as the uninfected heroes fighting against the zombies. A bit more traditional kind of zombicide style, if you like. In this game, basically there is... I'll show you inside. These are some of the uninfected heroes which are playable that you can play as. So if you want to play as the zombie, you can get the other set. If you want to play as the hero, this set allows you to do that. And in this, we basically have Colossus, we have Storm, we have Wolverine. We also have Rogue, we have Magneto, and we have Mystique. So those are the characters that you can play as. And then obviously we also have some zombies that you'll be fighting against as well. And because this is based upon the X-Men, we obviously have some X-Men villains as well. So we have a zombified Sabretooth there. We have... Psylocke, I couldn't remember her name there. Psylocke, we have Juggernaut, we have Iceman, we have Dark Phoenix, and there is also is it Cyborg? Cyclops. I was going to say Cyborg there. Cyclops as well. So this is kind of something new. We didn't really know this originally. This is new news. And essentially what they're going to be is they're going to be 2 separate core boxes. So if you want to play as the heroes, you can buy the X-Men version. If you want to play as the zombified heroes, you can buy the other version with Captain America in. But they are cross-compatible as well. So you will be able to take the zombies from one and play them in the other. They'll come with missions to be able to play with the different parts and things as well. So I think what we're going to see is when we come to see the campaign next week, we'll see hosts of add-ons with lots of other characters, both zombie versions and non-zombie versions. The 2 games play with a slightly different mechanic. So if you're familiar with, say, War Machine and Hordes, which essentially share the same rules, but in War Machine you're basically putting out focus points to allow your characters to do things. In Hordes, you basically leeching back fury from your Hordes monsters to stop them kind of frenzying. This works in a similar mechanic. So what you've got is, if I can check my notes here, in hero mode, you have like a power system, which basically is kind of like a resource management thing. You're essentially putting power out onto your heroes to be able to allow them to do kind of like sort of superhero type things. And in the zombie mode, you have something which is called hunger, and basically you will you'll almost kind of like keep getting these hunger points, which will make your characters stronger. But if they get to the point where basically they go on a rampage because they're just so kind of like ravenous that they basically, you lose the ability to control them, and they basically go off and do their own kind of things until they eat something, which brings their kind of like ravenous meter back down again. So yeah, the Galactus model as well, which is the huge big model that we've seen, is exclusive to the Kickstarter. It's going to be available to kind of to back from day one. However, it is not going to be a limited model in the same way the Cthulhu model was for the Death May Die thing. They mentioned on their live stream that the Cthulhu model, they didn't think many people would want to back it, so they basically had limited numbers. They said they were going to make 300 or whatever it was, and it sold out super quick, and there was a lot of kind of backlash about it. What they've done with this one is they said they've changed how the manufacturing process works, and basically it's going to be open for everybody. If everybody that backs the Kickstarter wants one, everybody will get one. There's no limited numbers, but it will be Kickstarter exclusive. So yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. I must admit, I'm super keen on it myself. I think I'm going to be backing this. I've never purchased a Zombicide game. I've always wanted to, never kind of managed to get round to it for one reason or another. But I think this one there might be the one that I go in. You know, I'm a Marvel fan as well, so that doesn't harm me at all in that respect as well. Marco saying the art is spectacular. If I wasn't already into Marvel Crisis Protocol, I would have gone all in. I think I will go all in on this, mate. I've not backed a Kickstarter for about 2 or 3 years now, and it's a game that I think like I'll enjoy playing. I'll enjoy painting the models. I think when my little boy, as by the time it ships, my little boy's going to be like at least another year or two older. It's something that we'll probably play together. And it's because it's kind of more board game rather than like Marvel Crisis Protocol. It's something that me and my wife will play together as well. So yeah, I think I'm going to go in for this one. VJ says, anyone know the X-Men Marvel United is due to deliver? No idea, mate, on that stuff. Matt Lumley says, wonder if these might be 32 mil. Might be sweet for Marvel Crisis Protocol. Could make a fun narrative event. I think it's another reason as well, mate, why I'm going to pick them up as well. I think they said the base sizes are going to be the same as the normal Zombicide miniatures. So I've not seen one to kind of to reference, but I think scale wise, I don't think they're a million miles away. Spider-Lord said I'd be getting both versions but not bothered about a giant Galactus. I quite like the Galactus actually. It's something I would kind of I'd put on display like in my hobby room or something like that. So yeah, I depending upon the price, obviously, I think I could quite go in for that as well. The big Galactus model actually does have some gameplay elements as well where it can be used in game. Jess says I get angry like that too. Yeah, me and you both, mate. Chipman says I love Zombicide and this will be great entry to Zombicide franchise for new players. Yeah, like I say, I've never picked up another Zombicide. It's not like more of the same for me. This will probably be my first entry into it. Son of Tex, I just know I'll have no one to play this with if I did back it, so that'll keep my spending in check. Yeah, and there is that, mate, as well. I know I will have people to play this one with. Jim says I'll end up going all in, no doubt. Kenneth Paulson, good evening, says the only zombie game I need is Last Days Zombie Apocalypse. To be honest, I really like Walking Dead. That kind of scratches my zombie miniatures games itch, really. And again, I went in for the Kickstarter on that. Well, how long ago was that now? 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years. And I didn't really buy anything more for it. I was really happy with everything I got for the Kickstarter. Gave me more than enough stuff that I needed to play. I don't feel the need to kind of complete the whole kind of collection. So yeah, I'm happy with those for that. Scott says, really fancy this. I pulled out of the last Zombicide, but this is a bit of me totally. I was close on the last the West one, the Wild West one. I really was close in going into that one, but I just decided at the last minute not to do it. But yeah. John said, I'm getting the look, better start cooking dinner soon. Yes, mate, maybe you should. So yeah, so that is a bit of news there about Marvel Zombicide. And actually, I'll tell you what I've got as well, which I didn't show you. We'll head across to this. For those that didn't see it, this is the This is the trailer that they put up this week. I've obviously turned the sound off as well, but this just gives you a little bit more information. It only lasts a couple of minutes, and I'll talk over the top of it as well. So yeah, basically there's going to be 2 separate core boxes. You can just choose to buy one if you want. You can choose to buy the other one. Obviously, if you buy them both, there's obviously sort of cross gameplay mechanics between the games. And I would imagine some of the stretch goals that we'll see will be things like, so Captain America comes as a zombie in one core box. I can imagine there's potentially going to be a stretch goal where you can get Captain America as the non-zombie version, which means you can play in the hero mode as well. So you can see here, this is the Marvel Zombies version with the miniatures there that you can see, the ones I told you that you can get, which are Deadpool. If I can remember from my list again, there's Deadpool. There is, where's my list? Captain Marvel, Wasp, Iron Man, Hulk, and Captain America. And then there is also the kind of there's the non-infected characters as well, which are Scarlet Witch, Doctor Strange, Thor, Black Panther, Spider-Man, and Miss Marvel. And I think we see them in the trailer here in a few seconds. There's a really good. Well, I say really good. There is a tabletop simulator version of this that's been shown on online, where it was basically, I think it was Quackalope and a few other players and somebody from Simon basically showing how the game plays. The gameplay looked really good, I must admit. I wasn't the biggest fan of the actual video itself. Everybody seems to be talking over each other when they're trying to play the game, but the gameplay itself looked quite fun. This is the introduction that we didn't know anything about this until I think it was back end of last week basically, but this is the X-Men Resistance part. And here you can basically see the characters. Gives you a bit of an idea. They come on really nice, like sort of sculpted bases as well. In this version, obviously in the zombie version, you're trying to save New York. In this version, you're trying to protect the X-Men mansion. And they showed off some of the tiles and stuff as well. And there's basically, you can go up and down the lifts in the building, down into the war room and stuff as well. So there's it looks pretty awesome, I must admit. It seems to be the theme's right up my street. Obviously, the Zombicide game is well kind of tuned now as well, to be fair. And then here we'll just be able to see the big Galactus model as well, and it'll give you an idea just the physical size of it in comparison to the other miniatures as well. And that's true scale there as well, so it just gives you an idea. Those are not 8mm minis, those are going to be like 32mm roughly. It just gives you an idea on the size of that beast. And it does come with an alternative zombified head and arm as well, so you can choose which way around you want it. So yeah, January the 18th, that's when that comes. So, next up in the news, this one is for Marvel Crisis Protocol, and this last week we were treated to some future releases which are coming out. I think, are they Q1, is it say? Yeah, Q1 2022, and this is the first time we've seen this kind of sort of minions, grunts, whatever you want to call them, the additional pack. So we've got Nick Fury Jr. here and S.H.I.E.L.D. agents. Now, for those that are thinking, well, how is it Nick Fury Jr.? There's a whole thing in the comic books that basically Nick Fury actually used to be, in the original comics, was a white character, and then they did, I think it was, if I remember right, it was basically Marvel. It's either Marvel Ultimate, I think it was called, where Nick Fury then became kind of like it basically became Sam Jackson. It was designed to look like Samuel Jackson, but but that was kind of like an alternative timeline, if you like. Then obviously Samuel Jackson was in the Marvel films and made Nick Fury kind of sort of, that's how everybody expects Nick Fury to look. So what it did in the comic books was Nick Fury had a son, and this is Nick Fury Jr. and he looks more like the Marvel version, more like the Marvel cinematic version. That's why it's Nick Fury Jr. It's all really complicated, but that's the reason behind it. But yeah, there's been a bit of talk about this for a couple of reasons. One is because this is the first character that comes with this sort of like S.H.I.E.L.D. unit here, if you like, with 3 models to a base. The other reason is the tactical rope thing that basically goes nowhere. What these photographs don't show is basically like that's, I don't know if you can see my mouse. That's where the rope ends. Obviously, it's not an endless rope type thing. So it's going to be interesting to see how these play. There's been a lot of talk about them online. It's not the start of Marvel Crisis Protocol becoming like an army game. these two characters, the Nick Fury Jr. and the Shield agents, are deployed as like kind of together on a table, and you can only ever have one character that has these kind of like minion type units with them. So that will stop it being just like a spam of lots and lots of models across the table. An interesting thing for this is obviously it's coming Q1 next year, but you do get a lot of tactics cards in this as well. This is a lot more than I think we've seen in any other kit. So it'll be quite interesting to see how these will play on the table. We're yet to see their cards. So yeah, looking forward to seeing that one. Also staying with Marvel Crisis Protocol as well, we were sort of shown as well this, which is the Quinjet. If you're familiar with the Avengers films, you'll know this. Now this is a large terrain piece, which is really quite nice to see actually. It is going to be priced at $79.99 US dollars. Which is probably off the top of my head going to be about £55-60 in the UK, and there's generally some discounts in that as well. It is just a terrain piece. It's optional. You don't have to buy one. It's going to come out in Q2. It doesn't come with any kind of cards or anything. It's physically just the terrain piece. Like I say, is there no cards included? But it is something called Size X. So if you're familiar with Marvel Crisis Protocol, each terrain piece has a number associated with its size. Like a big building, like a mansion or something, might be like a size 5, whereas like a car might be a size 2, a post box might be a size 1. And this is all to do with things like gaining cover, line of sight, that type of stuff, being able to throw things around. This is a new size called Size X, and essentially what it means is it can't be interacted with and it can't be thrown. So it will generally just be a nice piece of terrain for the board. So yeah, that's a bit more news on those ones. Chuck says, I thought you were going to say by the time it ships, my little boy will have graduated college. Well, he's 6 this year. I'd assume he's going to be almost 7 by the time it ships, which will be perfect for kind of a bit more board gaming together. So yeah, to be fair, at least he's got a bit of time to get a little bit older. Mini Walmart says, I don't just invest in Zombicide alone. I use all the Zombicide minis for other indie games too. Nice one. Yeah, James is saying that's quite the Galactus. Yeah, it certainly is, mate. Ian H says, I really have no idea why you would want such a massive piece of plastic, but each to their own. I'm kind of surrounded by like massive things that are just nice to look at. That's kind of. I've got a Star Wars AT-AT Walker there. I've got my Rams helmet over here to the side of us. I've got my Darth Vader helmet. I'm surrounded by bits of useless plastic that I just that I put on display, and it's nice to look at. So yeah, that's why. Sundered Sykes, yeah, Marvel Ultimate. I recall one issue to do with Wolverine, where he was black and wasn't Sam Jackson. Next time it was. Yeah, I think the artist said that he kind of like he thought he should be like Sam Jackson. Basically, that was it. Marco says MCP also showed the hand grunts as well. I think what they've shown me, I think I've got the image here actually, so I will show you what I've got. They showed this basically. So this is another pack that's coming as well, which has basically got, I think is it Wasteland Daredevil, which is almost like an evil or like a bad version of Daredevil, Elektra and Elektra's ninjas, which are basically the hand ninjas. So that's what we've seen so far. I don't think we've actually seen the actual models yet, but we've certainly seen the silhouette for them. And actually, while I've kind of, that gives you a bit of a rough idea of the size of the. Let me just zoom that in a little bit. The size of the Quinjet model. So this is obviously the Nick Fury and the Shield agents, and you can obviously see behind them. This is the Quinjet and the size of the wing coming over the top, and it's obviously behind them as well. So it does give you an idea of the size of the piece of terrain. Where's my chat disappeared to? Mark is saying the main reason we keep buying hobby stuff, whether we need it or not, is they keep making cool stuff. I'm alright with folks making cool stuff, and I'm alright with buying cool stuff. I'm not alright with like spending the money on it and then not doing anything with it. Yeah, Mark was seeing the silhouette. Yeah, that was the one. Yeah, I've just shown that one. John saying, I have a few aircraft models that are more than 2 feet long, not unusual. Yeah, it's a decent size, mate, I think. Christian, thanks very much, mate. Take care, buddy. Appreciate it. VJ says Hulk can't throw a jet. That makes zero sense. I think it's more just to do with the fact, mate, just from a purely practical point of view, really, on the tabletop, I think. Busey says Marvel should do part works like GW are doing. They kind of do, to be fair, mate. They just release something new every month. Matt says Fury used to be modelled off Hasselhoff pre-Ultimate. He was, that's right, yeah. Universally, though, everyone appreciated Sam Jackson Fury more, yeah. I forgot that bit. James says big models scare me, even tanks and things. Those wide open flat areas. My smother in shade paint and dry brush doesn't work. Dry brushing still works with them, but you need to do more of a stippling thing. The Artist Opus YouTube channel has loads of really good videos kind of showing how to use a dry brush to kind of like stipple them areas, but yeah, an airbrush is exactly what you needed. Oh, Lord Wooden says you missed showing the rope in that last picture. Yeah, that was it, mate. James said I just painted a tiny Starbucks cup and a Pepsi can. I painted a Coca-Cola can, mate, on one of mine as well. So back to a bit more on the news as well then. So we got some news as well from Mantic Games about the Umbrella Academy board game. Now, this is something that they kind of teased going back to 2019. I remember them talking about it, and it just seemed to kind of disappear a little bit. But it says that they've been a bit quiet since then. However, the great news is we've been busy working away in the background and can reveal some of the first details about this exciting addition to the Mantic catalogue. Now, the Umbrella Academy is another game based upon a Dark Horse Comics license, the same as Hellboy, and Mantic had a lot of success with the Hellboy license, so I assume this is one of the reasons why they've gone off of this. For those that don't know, Umbrella Academy might not be that well known as a comic, but there is certainly I think it's on Amazon Prime, I think it is. There's an Amazon TV show based on the Umbrella Academy as well. This is obviously based on the comic books, not the TV show, but obviously the stories will be quite similar. So first up, we're pleased to announce we've been working with the award-winning River Horse Games to design the Umbrella Academy. We've a long history with Alessio Cavatori after he created the rules for Kings of War, and we're delighted to be working with him once again for the Umbrella Academy. As well as making a fantastic war games like Kings of War, Alessio has made some incredibly popular board games too, including The Labyrinth, The Dark Crystal, and Pacific Rim. Here we can see one of the models there as well. Inspired by the world-famous graphic novels by Gerard Way and Gabriel Bayer, the Umbrella Academy tasks you with one simple thing: stopping the apocalypse. Each turn you work together to defeat hazards that threaten to destroy different locations across the city. If too many locations are devastated, then it's game over, so you need to use your abilities wisely. River Horse has done a fantastic job of creating a really fun cooperative game for 1 to 5 players that's easy to learn but offers a challenge if you want to defeat the nefarious supervillains trying to thwart your plans. So here we can see another one of the characters as well. I have no idea what the characters are called. I've briefly seen the first half of the TV series. It's not a comic book I'm familiar with. I'm not that familiar with the characters themselves, but it does look interesting. And it says the Umbrella Academy board game will be heading to a crowdfunding platform near you in early 2022, and to sign up to the Mantic newsletter for more information. So personally for me, this is something that I knew they were working on because they kind of teased it before. I know nothing really about the background matter. But it's something I think I'll be watching with interest, just to kind of see what they tease and what comes out about it. So yeah, nice to see something new coming from Mantic as well. Netflix, thank you, Tasty Brain Drain. I thought it was on Amazon. It's on Netflix. You are correct. Ian H saying Umbrella Academy is massively popular and well known as a comic, just not so much in the non-comic community. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm getting at, really. Mini saying Mini One Watson, yeah, great series. Johnson, he discovered a local store that sells Mantic and Marder stuff, and they had a ton. Forgot to check the prices though. I was distracted by the boxes of War Games Atlantic figures. VG says, I see they only mentioned the mate of Labyrinth. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, they've had a lot of licensed games. River Horse, they've done Hunger Games, they've done the My Little Pony stuff as well. I think they obviously have a few. Alessio owns River Horse. I'm not sure if Alessio is actually working on the rules or if it's somebody that works for the company, to be fair. Marcus says, yeah, if Hulk hits you with a jet, that's not damage that should be removed from the game unless you are just as durable or more so than Hulk. I think the problem is the Hulk, the piece of terrain is so big, you wouldn't know where to put it when you took it off the table. That's the problem. Luke saying, I've been looking at this, looks fabulous. Hope to see this project do very well. Mini One says, I can't wait for the Thing miniatures game to arrive. The Kurt Russell mini's spot on. I hadn't heard about that, mate. James says, everyone I know watched it on Netflix, including my mother, but none of them knew it was a comic book. That's kind of exactly what I mean. There's a lot of stuff these days where, like, Netflix and Amazon have these shows that are based upon, like, The Boys, for example, is another prime example of something that was based upon graphic novels, and not necessarily anybody watching it would have known that. You've got things like... what's the one? Wheel of Time, obviously with the big books, the Witcher, all that kind of stuff. Really, you see, Netflix and Amazon have really big reach now. Disney Plus, that most people don't really necessarily ever really know that there's a background to that kind of stuff. James is saying he's finished his Ultron for the challenge. VG says, I like the TV show, but doubt I'd risk another River Horse stinker. I think it depends, mate. I mean, obviously, Mantic's still got the overall say on this. They're still releasing it under their name. VG says, I tried The Boys, didn't do anything for me. I absolutely loved the first series of The Boys. The second season, I must admit, I struggled to get into, so I need to go back and watch it again, because people have told me it picks up after like the second or third episode. But yeah, I really enjoyed the first one. 66 Trumple says, what do you think the current best boxed minis game? Warcry, Kill Team, Underworld. I assume if you're just talking about GW games, I would always say Warcry is the best game that they make, from my own personal experience, but I don't think GW make the best miniatures games. I think they make fantastic miniatures. I wouldn't say they make the best miniatures games. Yeah, Luke saying, a lot of people don't realise Amazon's American Gods or Preacher come from comics. Yeah, exactly, mate, yeah. Eddie says, personally, I think the superheroes being zombies with still having their conscience sounds silly. I'm not sold on the game. Check out the comic books, mate. It's a really, really good run of comic books. I've been reading them recently, and it's really good. I mean, the fact that they still have... They basically... They're zombies, as in they've got this virus that's basically eating away at them, but it's basically just gives them this bloodlust with a hunger for flesh, basically. But they still have that conscious, like, there's a whole really good storyline in it about them, like, feeling guilty about what they're doing kind of thing, even though they know they can't stop themselves. I just think it's a different take on kind of a traditional zombie story, and it's, yeah, I definitely would definitely check it out. Ian saying American Gods is a series of novels. Yeah, it is novels, but I think that's the point. That's what he's making. 66 Trample says, what would you say is the best game, not GW? It's kind of like saying which is your favourite child, really. There's so many good games out there. At the minute, I'm currently enjoying Marvel Crisis Protocol, but ask me again in 6 months' time, it might be something different. Who knows? Yeah, the Garth Ennis stuff is it's quite dark, definitely. So, back to a bit of news as well. Oh, I forgot to show you this as well. So, there have been some other characters. Obviously, we've just seen this one here. These ones are just stuff that they've obviously shared some images with different sort of media outlets and stuff like that, Mantic. So, those are the couple of painted ones that they've shown off. There's obviously the same model, unpainted. And there's another. I've got no idea what the characters are called, so I can't be helping you. But it's got quite a unique art style, I would say, these comic books. Very much like kind of the Mike Mignola stuff for Hellboy as well. So if you're into that kind of stuff, these might be some stuff to watch. And then lastly as well, for the new stuff, we've got some new combat patrols coming out for 40k. The Tau Empire is the one that people seem to be pretty excited about. Looks to be pretty good for Kill Team if you're a Kill Team player. I think there's a lot in this set to get you playing that as well. And obviously if you're playing 40k, it's a good a place as any to start. I think there's a lot of value in it. But we've also got a couple, some other new sets as well. There is a Grey Knight set, which when I kind of did the calculations, I don't think the value's fantastic in that one personally, but I think it's like you'll be saving a little bit of money. You've got the Thousand Suns one here as well. The Adeptus Custodes one, I think when I calculated this one, is probably the best value of all of the different Combat Patrol sets. Because these all cost the same, I think they're all like £85 in the UK retail price. I think you're actually getting good value for money. Plus, because Custodes are a bit of an elite army, you're getting quite a lot of kind of stuff, like points-wise. You're getting quite a lot of points-wise in that box set as well. And then we've also got another one coming for as well for Genestealer cults. And it says basically all five of these boxes will help you get playable force on the tabletop, perfect for getting involved with the first season of Warhammer 40,000. We might talk about seasons at some point in the future. I've got my own thoughts on that, in which the battle for control of Vigilus and the Nakmund Gauntlet continues. So there's quite a lot of. It says these can also be built as breacher team squads that specialise in close quarters combat. If I remember that right, that's for the Tau stuff, isn't it? So the Fire Warriors. So they can be built in multiple ways. So if you're a Tau player, there's some nice stuff in there to get your hands on. And if you're looking to start, maybe I say either with Kill Team or maybe with the Combat Patrol side of 40k, some of these are some great stuff to actually get your hands on. So there's our news for tonight. Let's have a little look. VJ says American Gods was another one I found a bit overrated. Do you know what? I wasn't a big fan of American Gods, the TV series, but I listened to American Gods, the Audible, the audio book, and I really, really preferred it. I really liked the audio book to it. It almost just got straight. It almost explained the story that I felt the TV show didn't really kind of give you the information on it. I really, if you didn't like a TV show, but there was bits of it about it that you might like, I would 100% recommend either reading the book or listening to the audio book. Eddie says, have you played Unmatched? I haven't, mate. No, I have not played Unmatched. Carrie says, I was always curious of Crisis Protocol, but I couldn't bring myself to buy it because I went all in on Batman Miniatures game. What I would say with Marvel is, if you're even the slightest bit interested in it, the rules are free online. You can download them and have a read over them. But picking up the core box is an absolute great way to just give it a try and see if you enjoy it. It was kicking around for about £50 during the Black Friday sales and the end of the year. It's probably crept back up a little bit now, but I'm sure at some point there'll be sales going around again. The core box is fantastic value. After that, it's up to you. You can choose if you want to spend more money on it. I definitely did. But you certainly don't have to. There's enough in the core box that you could quite happily play with just the stuff that's in there. John says, did I miss that you did discuss the new Dead Zone and Kings of War news from Mantic? I think we did them last week, mate, didn't I? Did I not talk about them last week? I spoke about firefighting stuff last week, I think. Tizzy Brain Drain says, Thousand Suns, cool. Another Chaos Space Marine chapter. Heard some squaring about the lack of crisis suits. Do you know what it is? I think folks who the combat patrols are based, the combat patrol boxes are aimed at, don't really care about the stuff that the vast majority of the community who have been playing for years and probably already have that stuff are complaining about. I think the vast majority of people who play 40k are much more casual than the kind of the community gives them credit for, and I think that at the end of the day, most folks who play it are literally just wanting to have, like, put some models on the table and have some fun games. I think we seem to think that 40k is this uber competitive thing. I think even GW seem to think that 40k is this uber competitive thing, and it's getting driven down this line of kind of constant updates and constant tweaking of point costs and constant releasing of tiny war games. Thank you very much for joining the Patreon. This constant release of like new stuff, but I think actually the vast majority of people are just, they'll either get confused by the amount of stuff that's out there, and they'll just kind of, these starter boxes are just a way to get started, to buy some models and see if you kind of, if it's something for you. So I think people gnashing their teeth about the lack of this in a box set, or the lack of that, or why has it got that in it, I think as long as they're good value, like, then, you know, it's the majority of people that they're aimed at will be quite happy with that kind of stuff. James is saying American Gods is one of my favourite books. The show's okay. Yeah, like I say, mate, I listened to the audio book, and it was just the whole story was so much clearer. Spylord saying I have huge Gene Stealer cult army, and that box is still tempting. The Custodes box must be nearly 1,000 points. Yeah, I think, like I say, I think it's probably one of the best value combat patrol boxes they do. Aaron Black says Marvel Crisis Protocol is great as well, although the release schedule for North America has been crap of late. I think the release schedule for America is just a bit behind, but if everybody in America is getting it at the same time, I appreciate people feel a little bit like for example, we in the UK have been getting stuff relatively kind of early in the range, but the new Colossus and that kind of stuff, the I forget who it is now. Is it the Rogue model and Gambit? Those ones, they've been released in Poland, for example. We're not due to get them till kind of like February, March time. So it's kind of swings and roundabouts. As long as kind of like local tournaments will probably stop people playing with them if they're not widely available, like locally, for example. So it doesn't really kind of change things that much. And if you're just playing local friendly games, doesn't really, it's just as it is. But it's kind of coming all the time. Ian saying you can pick up that Marvel Crisis Protocol core set cheap all the time. You can't pick it up for 50 quid all the time, though, mate. It's generally around 67 to 70 pound on it as good value. I mean, the retail price I think is either 90 or 99 pound for it. So you can generally always get it with discount. But there were some really, really deep discounts over Black Friday and stuff. Peter says I decided to give Kill Team a second look. Ordered a sprue of Deathcore on eBay, giving me some more options. Didn't like it at first, but having watched a few bat reps, I'm starting to like it. I just find it's a bit overly complicated, mate, for the kind of game that I like to play personally. Luke says I really wish a company would make a game for Asterix and Obelix. It's been my favourite since I was a kid. God, there's a bit of a blast from the past, mate. Yeah, James saying Marvel Crisis box is absolute bargain. Beauty says, will you be doing any battle reports soon? I don't think so, mate. Not at the minute. I don't think. I'm kind of I'm playing for fun. Like, for example, I'm going to my local sort of gaming group on Thursday night, and I'm playing another game of Marvel. I'm just enjoy playing it as a bit of a hobby thing at the minute, mate, to be honest. At some point in the future I might do. I don't know, but short term, no, I won't. People saying there about their Ghost Keel by far the best looking Tau suit. Chuck and Deb Taylor, I've got no idea if there's a clicking sound coming through. Nobody else has mentioned it, but it doesn't mean it's not there. Certainly I don't think it's been there all night. So where are we up to here? Jess says totally buying an Asterix game. Aaron Black says thoughts on the quality of the pre-paints for that Street Fighter game. Who is the game designed for if the minis are all pre-painted? You could say that about the X-Wing game, mate, to be fair. I think it was kind of designed for collectors, really. Like, it's I think VJ might have got the Street Fighter game. It went to Kickstarter a while ago, and I must admit I had a look at it. I think it's aimed at people who love Street Fighter and maybe haven't been into miniatures games or into board games. And by buying into this, they're essentially buying like collectibles that they can play a game with. It's the same as saying who is the Funko Pop game based at. I think we quite often confuse. What's that, James Bray? June. We quite often. Thanks for the donation, mate. We quite often confuse miniatures games with board games because there's quite a bit of crossover on them now these days. But I think the vast majority of people who play board games do not paint their miniatures, so actually pre-painted sort of pieces in a game, especially of the scale of Street Fighter, I think are a major selling point. So I think it's not aimed at, it might be aimed at you if you like Street Fighter, but it's not aimed at you if you're like a miniature painter. I'm sure we'll see people doing sort of repainting them and stuff though. James is saying, you know what would be good? A June minis game. Yeah, VJ saying he does have it, yeah. Rocky Mountain says he'd love an Asterix and Obelix game as well. VG says it comes with great figures that you can display without messing about with the paint jobs. Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, like I say, when I saw it on Kickstarter, I was kind of half tempted myself, purely just for the kind of like, I like having a bit of kind of geek stuff on shelf around me in my hobby room and in the office and that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's not really. Street Fighter was never kind of my first love kind of thing, really. So I didn't back it really. Spylord saying the one IP that was never picked up for a board game was Dead Space. Yeah, it almost kind of disappeared a little bit. James Bray using my donations as a swear jar now, mate. Feel free, mate, anytime you want. Mark says, Happy New Year, fella. I love Crisis Protocol. I think it might be that slightly larger figures are kind of on my old eyes. I've got old eyes, mate, and they're still killing my eyes painting them, to be fair. But yeah, I just like I'm a fan of Marvel stuff. I think the rules are fantastic for Marvel Crisis Protocol, and it's my jam at the minute. That's the one I'm really enjoying spending some time with. I showed a load of miniatures last week, didn't I? So my painted pile here of my different painted stuff that I've been kind of getting on with. Let me see if I can get some of these to focus in. If I cover my eyes, there we go. There's some of the stuff. I'm not going to go in too close with them in case I drop them all. But yeah, I've got a huge pile behind me of stuff that needs painting. I'm in the middle of painting my Dormammu model for the January challenge, so I haven't mentioned that tonight. If anybody is interested, we are doing a BlackJack Legacy painting challenge for January. You have until I think it's the 6th of February to paint a model, any model you want from any game you want, as long as it's kind of like a bigger model. The theme is go big or go home, so we're saying roughly a 50mm base and above, just to kind of give you an idea. But Marvel kind of miniatures as a prime example, I think for like off the top of my head, I think these are like 70mm bases or something like that. That'll give you an idea of kind of like, just, you know, that'll do a big model, paint something a little bit bigger. But I mean, even like if you pick up the core box, for example, even like Dr. Octopus here, he comes on a 50mm base, something like that would still get you kind of through as well. But if you want to paint something a bit bigger, if you want to paint something like this size, we've got the Hulkbuster. That would be perfect as well. Some people are painting big dragons from their games. Somebody's painting like an Imperial Knight for 40k. Some people are making dioramas. It's just about painting something. But if you are interested, come and check out the BlackJack Legacy Facebook group. All of the details are in there. Or if you're in the Patreon group as well, the Patreon only Discord group also has all of the details in there as well. Where are we up to? Peter said he's painting his abandoned abbey right now for the challenge. Nice one. Beauty says that's about 1,500 quid's worth of Marvel there. I'm not even going to show you the stuff behind me, mate, that's for sure. Let's just say we've got... This is one of the boxes of stuff I've been building. There's another one as well, mate. But no, I don't think that's 1,500 quid's worth there, mate. At least 10 of those are core box models, so I only paid 60 quid for the core box, so it's definitely not 1,500 quid's worth there. Aaron says his Dormammu's been half painted for the last month. I just lost the stem on him, lost steam on him. Yeah, I think sometimes that's the point of this challenge, really. It's just to try and give people a nudge and just say, yeah, go on, just kind of get involved, give it a go kind of thing. John says, my family's tired of me talking about Battletech and mechs in general. They don't appreciate my music taste either. That's why we have hobbies, mate, so that we don't have to kind of have our family share our interests. Mediffies is going to empty my wallet in a few months, RPD says, with the new Fallout Wasteland Warfare minis. I've never really been into Fallout as a game, like as a kind of a universal system. It's not really been my jam, so it never really kind of massively interested me when the game come out, but I've heard it's a decent game. I don't know a lot about it, mind. Greg Cherry saying Quackalope has a good Marvel Zombie playthrough. Yeah, I mentioned earlier on in the stream, mate. I wouldn't say I've got mixed feelings about the playthrough. I think it shows the game off and I think the gameplay looks really good, and it was good to see it played. My problem with it was that everybody in the video just keeps talking over the top of each other. And it actually, at times when I was watching it, it was just noise because they were all trying to kind of tell each other what they should be doing. And I found it a bit frustrating, if I'm honest. But I watched enough of it to get the gist of what the gameplay was like, to see if it would be something I'd be interested in backing. But I couldn't watch the whole video. It was just a bit noisy, if I'm honest. VG says, sorry to be negative, but I hate MODOK. He is a kind of a weird character, to be fair, mate. I don't disagree with you. It's a nice model, though, actually. I'm looking forward to painting it, because there's such a big, like the face on it is such a big face. I really feel like I can kind of spend a bit of time and spend some time on it, but he's not my favourite character. Luke says, I have the AT-ST on my desk all month, but work's been busy and not had a chance to crack on with it yet. You've still got time, mate. We've still got 3 weeks left or something like that. Still got plenty of time. Scott says, I have started 3 of my minis for the painting challenge. Nice one. Luke says, Quackalope playthroughs are awful. I'd never want to play a game with them. Too much alpha gaming. There's a lot of quarterbacking type stuff goes on it, about saying like, well, this is what you should do. You should do this, and then like, I'm waiting for you to do that because I want to do my thing, kind of thing. And it didn't feel like a gaming group I wanted to play with, but the problem was they were all basically trying to talk over the top of each other to say what all the other ones should do, and so I actually found it quite difficult. Greg's saying it's a playthrough hosted by Simon. The problem is, mate, it's not really hosted by Simon. The Simon guy is kind of telling them how to play and telling the rules. Quackalope is obviously hosting the thing. He's not actually playing the game. He's controlling the cameras and the kind of the viewpoint for the tabletop simulator thing. It's the players, to be fair. The players are all just talking over the top of each other. VG says, never seen Quackalope. I'd not seen him before, mate, until this Marvel Zombies thing. For some reason, him and a guy called Board Game Co, it might be, seem to be kind of doing a lot of the promo work with Simon on this one. They're not a channel I've necessarily watched in the past, but then I don't watch a lot of board game and stuff recently. But yeah, it was just the other stuff that kind of they've talked about for Marvel Zombies has been fine. I've quite enjoyed it. It was just the playthrough was just like, I couldn't tell if it was kind of like fake excitement for how much fun they were having, where they were all talking over the top of each other, or if it was just everybody talking over the top of each other and I couldn't hear what was going on. With the right accent, the Simon guys sounds quite different. Or as opposed to the Simon game, the C-Men games. What's that? Marcus says, not if he paid me. What was that one about, mate? Marcus. Oh, I hate typing on my phone. Oh, always been quite ridiculous and never liked them. The MODOK, what do you call it? The MODOK cartoon thing is a bit weird. I must admit, I watched one episode of that on Disney Plus and then was like, yeah, I ain't watching that anymore. Luke saying, Alex from Board Game Co and Jesse Quackalope are board game YouTubers that have been getting bigger and bigger as they only do enthusiastic crowdfunding promotion. They work together a lot. That's kind of the impression I got, mate. I actually quite like the Alex guy. I've seen some of his stuff in the past. He has in the past done a bit more kind of thought-provoking type of things, and I found some of that interesting. I'd not seen any of the stuff from, is it Jesse you say? Yeah, I'd not seen any of that. But yeah, they do seem to be doing quite a bit of I guess if you're into the board gaming side of things, Kickstarter promotion and crowdfunding promotion type stuff is probably quite lucrative. Yeah, VJ says he watched one episode and said, yeah, it's not really for him either. So, folks, I think we'll kind of start to wrap it up a little bit now, to be fair. It's been a good night, some nice numbers in. Nice to see a few more folks in. I am... Currently, it is taking me some time to build all of that MDF terrain stuff from that War Cradle Scenics pack. I obviously want to build it up and show it off on the video so I can explain what it was like to build. I can explain what I think the quality's like and that type of stuff. But I'll be honest, like I'm putting like full 8-hour days in building the stuff up, and it's taking some time. One, because there's a lot of stuff in the pack, and two, just because some of it's a little bit fiddly and stuff like that. So the plan is to finish building that this week and get that review video up this week. That is the plan anyway, so we should get that one. But thank you for tuning into another one of these. Again, if this is your first time here, or if you've if you've enjoyed watching the stream tonight, don't forget to leave a like. Please do click the subscribe button if you're not already subscribed. Let me know in the comments or in the video, in the, what do you call it, in the comments, like when the video was, if you're watching this back afterwards, the comments, that's right. Let me know in the comments if you like this format of a little smaller topic and then some news stuff as well. Is it enough to kind of keep the streams, keeping them lively, keeping them talkative? But yeah, bit of feedback never goes amiss. Vijay says, how's the Subway printing painting going? It's all printed, mate. It's been printed for a little while. I just never got round to start painting it yet. One of the big reasons I've not got round to start painting it yet is because it all needs priming with spray cans. I'm not doing the board that size with an airbrush, and the weather's been garbage, mate, if I'm honest. So I'm just kind of waiting for an opportunity, because what I want to do is film the process, so I need to kind of sort of just get some time and then do it in one big slug. So yeah, it's not progressing at the minute, mate, but it's more weather dependent at the minute, really. That's the problem. Phil Campbell, thank you very much, mate. See you night, folks. Wayne saying, great topic, thanks. Thank you very much, mate. Marcus saying, why did you have to remind me this existed, James Bray? What was that on again? Go to Earth 65, Modak. President of the USA. I remember that now, mate, now you mention it. And what was this one about we're talking about here? What we're talking about here. Luke saying crowdfunding promotion is where the money is for board game content creators. Yeah, I agree, mate. Yeah, he's saying that's where the board game market is, and that's what they do. It is, but if you review something, then you basically, I believe, you shouldn't be paid for a review because you're giving your personal opinion. It shouldn't be clouded by a monetary payment. However, when you're doing promotion stuff, when you're basically just trying to sell the game, you're being part of the marketing machine in that respect, and you're not giving a personal opinion. You are basically presenting the game on behalf of the company. Then that's exactly the point when folks start making good money out of it, and companies know that. And if you've got a decent kind of audience, if you've got a decent following, companies will happily pay you money to say nice things about their games. And I think it's a bit of a grey area, really. You really have to trust those people, otherwise it just sounds like you're kind of saying nice things for money. So it can be a bit of a grey area, shall we say. So yeah, that's what everyone was talking about and stuff. Anyway, I will call it a night there. Thank you everybody that's been in tonight. Thank you to was it Tiny War Games there as well, who's just joined the Patreon tonight. If you would like to check out the Patreon, like I say, for less than the price of a cup of coffee, it's probably half the price of a cup of coffee. You pay for a cup of coffee, I essentially get a cup of coffee out of it, but so it goes goes a little way towards me doing that. But yeah, it's patreon.com/BlackJack Legacy. Very much appreciated. Take care to every single one of you. Hello, Mark Zielinski, sneaking at the end there as well. Nice to see you, buddy. Must Contain Minis as well. Nice to see you as well. Take care, every single one of you. I'll see you next Monday on the live stream, but there will be another video this week. So, have a nice week, folks. Thanks for watching my video. I hope that you really enjoyed it. And if you did, why not consider clicking on the suggested video below to see more of the work that I've done. If you'd like to support the long-term sustainability of this channel, why not consider checking out my Patreon, where you can pledge and support from as little as $2 a month. And there is lots of different tiers and bonuses, which will give you access to a private Discord server. It will give you free t-shirts, free mugs, Just before we go, James Bray definitely paint Hulk. Thanks for watching my video. I hope that you really enjoyed it. And if you did, why not consider clicking on the suggested video below to see more of the work that I've done. If you'd like to support the long-term sustainability of this channel, why not consider checking out my Patreon, where you can pledge and support from as little as $2 a month. And there is lots of different tiers and bonuses, which will give you access to a private Discord server. It will give you free t-shirts, free mugs, a podcast every month,
and a number of other things, including getting your name at the end of every video, like these awesome folks who already support me now.
Definitely good after credit scenes when you come back and you see Luke Pryor mentioning. So that was the mid credit scene. This is obviously the end credit scene. So take care, folks.
Thanks for watching my video. I hope that you really enjoyed it. And if you did, why not